Hey folks, welcome to Algorithm Alley, and yes, today we're going to study about functions in Python programming. And this session is going to be to make you understand the syntaxes of functions, as in how do you define it, how do you call it, these things. Well, very quickly starting with it, let's understand one thing, that when we talk about functions, it's nothing but writing some lines of code which does a general steps of action, right? So let's say that maybe I wanted to print 2-3 lines of code, or maybe I just wanted to print a sentence saying that good morning and whatever the user's name is. Let's say that's a set of action, right? And this, when you talk about functions, the very first step is that functions are reusable. That's the best part of it. Reusable as in, so once you define your set of actions, right, you can keep calling it as many times as you want. So this saves lots of space and time, right? How it's going to be implemented, let's talk about that. Now, first steps first. When we talk about making a function, the very first step is to define it. How do you define it? In Python, we say DEF, which is say def, followed by the name of the function, and the parenthesis, you mention the name of the parameter. Post that, you write whatever you wanted to do, like what you want to print, or you want to just do a calculation or anything like that. This is called defining a function. Once a function is created by you, then you have to call it to make it work. Otherwise, after defining your function, it is just lying on your screen. So it is not going to work if you press that play button, right? So if you want to make it work, you have to trigger your function, and to do that, you need to call that function at the bottom. For calling it, we just say the name of the function, parenthesis, and then you define the value to your parameter. Okay, so let's check out a very basic example on it, and we may also practice some 2-3 questions on it. So let's go ahead. Now here, in terms of functions in Python, like I already mentioned about inbuilt and user-defined functions, let's have a look at some examples of inbuilt functions, which are your print statement, which is used for printing something, your len function, let's say, that's used for like finding out the length of a variable value, anything. Type function is to find out the data type of the variable entered, right? Now, in terms of user-defined functions, how can a user define their own functions, right? Let's begin. So as per the earlier slide, we have understood that it begins always with DEF, which is to define your function. My function's name is, let's say that I wanted to add 2 numbers. I'm going to say add, make the parenthesis over here, pass your variables a and b, colon, enter, and simply print what? A plus b, right? This is just an addition of values. Now, if I run this, it will execute, but yeah, what is it going to print you, right? What is A and what is B? You're supposed to define them as well, right? Now, this was our first step in terms of functions, which is just defining a function. To make a function work, you must call it. Now see, it doesn't do anything, so let's call the function. How do you do it? Let's go to the next line. Make sure that you are out of your indentation gap here. You don't have to have that. And now we'll say add parenthesis, and we'll pass 2 numbers here. Let's say it defines. If you say here, we have to define A, so which is 2, let's say, for example, and B, we'll just keep it 5. Okay, and simply run it. This gives you 7, right? A very basic function creation over here, where we are defining a function, calling it. Now, this is how do you use a print statement, like involvement of print. Now we will also see how does return work, right? So I'm going to take the same example here, and since I'm using a Colab notebook here, return doesn't play a very major role, I would say, but there's a different meaning to return. Now I have defined the same thing here. Instead of print, I'm going to say return. Now return is a keyword, it doesn't have to have a parenthesis, so I'm going to remove the parenthesis here and just say return A plus B, right? Now whenever we say return, the value is being returned back to the function. It will not be printing it directly, okay, unlike print. So what we do here is that we pass our function into a print statement to actually get printed, right? So we'll just say print parenthesis, and then it's in the brackets. Now if you run it, it'll print you 7. So whenever you're using return doesn't print anything, but just returns the value back to the function. And to make that function print stuff, you have to call the function within a print statement. I hope that is clear. Now, this is about user-defined function. Let's talk about how a code can be reusable. Now, let's say that I have defined this function for adding two numbers, right? And we have called it here to make it work. Similarly, I'm going to call this function once more. Let's call it, we'll just say print. We're calling the function's name with the name, parenthesis. Now I can define a and b once more. Let's say 3, 4 and run it. This time, it'll instead of taking 2 plus 5, it'll be considering 3 and 4. So this way, a function is like reusable. Let me just run the previous cell. And now we can see here it prints as 7. Similarly, I'll just copy paste this part. You can call this function as many times as it's required. Let's say 4, 9 or something. Let's run it. So get 13. This is how we call it a function to be reusable. Secondly, let's work on an activity where we are going to make a calculator, and for this we're going to use a couple of functions to work with it. So starting by, we'll be creating a a function so that defines how to add two things. So I'm going to say define. Use the addition function. We'll pass here variables like a and b. The syntax, I hope you remember now. We give a colon after defining it. Press enter and we just simply say that we wanted. So either you say print or we just say return a plus b. What return does, as we know, it will pass the value back to the function. Same way, I'm going to copy paste this, and instead of add, I'm going to say subtract. And of course, the operator will be different. Same thing we're going to do here. Control V, and instead of add, I'm going to say mul for multiply. I'm asking this function to multiply these variables, and finally we'll divide. Div, and I'm just going to say a slash v. We're doing a normal division, not a floor division, but yes, like you see that the function is ready. If I run it, it's not going to work, of course, because it needs to be triggered. Now this calculator thing, let's make it a bit more dynamic, where we ask the user to input some values, and based upon their input it will calculate these things. Okay, so let's begin. We'll just say print. We'll say here welcome to the calculator. We'll just say this way, and we'll just write a sentence as well that says please choose an operation. And what operation? Let's give first option to be give a \n. I hope you know \n. It takes us in a new line. Option number 1, let's say we wanted to do addition. Option number 2, we'll say again \n. Option number 2 is to subtract, again \n. Option number 3 is to multiply, \n. Fourth option is to divide. Right? I hope we know how this is going to look. Oh, that's it. So this is how we get the options below. Now we will be giving a prompt for the user to pick an option from it, right? We already said as heading that please choose an operation. Now we'll proceed by giving a variable. Let's call it as OP for operator, and we'll just take an integer input because I'm expecting the user will say 1, 2 or 3. So we'll just say enter your choice here. We'll just say 1/2/3/4, whatever. Okay, and let's run it. So now we get this option, enter your choice. We can answer anything in it. Now based upon the answer that the user picks, we're going to check a condition. So I'm going to say if the output that the user picks, if that matches with 1. We know that to check if something is matching or not, we say double equals, right? Because that shows that it is equal. Now we'll say colon enter, and we'll have to, this reminded me that we have to also ask the user that what are the numbers that you want to take to proceed with your operation. Let's say a equals to, and this is obviously going to be an integer because we want the user to enter first number and enter second number. So I'm going with this autocomplete feature. Please write this. We're taking like integer input to enter the first number, to enter the second number. So we got a and b, right? Now these a and b's are going to fill up these values now. So I'm going to say if the output picked as 1. So 1 indicates what? It indicates addition. The moment the user picks that, I'm going to simply print this function, addition function. So let's say if OP matches with 1, print, I'm going to print a sentence that, let's say, I'm going to use formatting. So I'm just going to use F over here. So we can say that the sum of curly brackets a. So if you want to use a variable within the quotes, we use formatting feature in which I'm passing a within the curly brackets. So the sum of a and b is, and I'm now calling the function. Let's call the function add a comma b, right? So this is our sentence. Please understand this part. We are saying the sum of A and B is, call your addition function here within the curly brackets. Why curly brackets? Because I am using a variable within curly brackets, variable or a function within the quotation marks, right? And that is because of formatting, F. Now I'm going to do the same thing with every operation. So let's paste it. All we have to do is just say elif and option number 2. And in this, we're not obviously taking sum. The difference of this and this is, say, subtract. For subtraction, same thing we'll paste here. Say elif operation 3. This is to find the product of two numbers where we are following with multiplication. Again, elif where we are following with operation number 4, right? That gives us division. So the quotient, we can say, of A and B, quotient, or you can just say the result, whatever makes sense. We'll go with divide, and finally let's also say else. What if the user picks a wrong or just a random option? So we'll just say that invalid choice. Okay, done. So now we have divided this into 3 parts if you pay attention. First part is to basically define your functions that's going to run your action. Again, we're talking about steps of action. Second, we are basically giving prompt to the user by giving also the integer inputs, asking them to enter the values. Once we get the values, then we compare it, then we run it, and we call the functions. These functions only that you have created will now be triggered whenever an option is picked. So let's run it. Here, enter your choice. Let's say I want to go with 2, which is subtraction. Now it asks you enter the first number, let's say 24. Second number, let's say 10. And it says you the difference of 24 and 10 is 14. As you see, this is also dynamic, meaning whatever you enter here follows the same, because again we have used the variables directly. I'm not saying A and B, but I'm saying the variables A and B. Right. So well, that's it. Write the same thing, run it, enjoy. And let's add up some more questions to this. I think we can also take up some questions like you're defining a function where you're asking a user. Let's try this one. Maybe you can take this as a homework and let me know. So write a program where we take write a program where take input name from the user and print a greeting message. Okay, one of this. Give a try. And I guess that's all. So thank you for staying up till the end. Make sure you're following again, practicing these questions, explore a bit more. I'll be coming up with another video where we'll be actually, including if conditions, loops, nested loops, conditions, your functions, and these sort of things will be there, where we are actually trying to solve some questions. So wait for that. And meanwhile, just get yourself introduced to this new concept, explore it and understand it. Okay. And now if you have stayed towards the end of this video, thanks a lot. So please make sure to leave a comment, maybe a like, and also do a subscribe. Thank you.